The human soldiers had been traveling for hours through the endless black of space, their small ship gliding silently toward a remote station orbiting a dying star. The mission had seemed simple when it started. Investigate the strange energy readings the Galaxy Council had picked up from this region. No one knew who or what was on the station, and no one knew why it had suddenly become active after decades of silence. But for Sergeant Alex Hunter and his squad, this was just another day in the galaxy, a day filled with danger, uncertainty, and rules that were never simple. As they approached the station, Alex's eyes scanned the view from the cockpit. The station was ancient, its metal surface scorched by years of cosmic radiation. Panels glimmered faintly with lights that flickered like stars themselves. Something about the station felt alive, though no one could say why. The energy readings had been erratic, pulsing as if the station were breathing. Alex adjusted his comms and gave the signal. "Team, suit up. We dock in 5." The soldiers responded with practiced efficiency, securing their gear and checking their weapons. But even seasoned fighters like them could feel the tension in the air. There was an unease that no words could describe, a feeling that this mission might be unlike any other. The docking bay was cold and silent when they arrived. The air inside the station smelled faintly of metal and something sweeter, like a flower no human had ever known. Their boots echoed against the metallic floor as they moved cautiously, weapons ready. The squad spread out, scanning every corridor with their handheld sensors. Every corner they turned, every shadow they passed, seemed to watch them back. But the station was empty, empty except for one presence. It was in the main hangar that they saw her. She was kneeling in front of a small spaceship, her hands moving with delicate precision as she cleaned and polished its hull. At first, Alex thought she might be another soldier, maybe some alien mercenary, but she was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, iridescent in the light of the station. Her eyes were enormous, expressive, and filled with a depth of emotion that no words could capture. Her armor, though elegant and regal, lay beside her, and there was no weapon in sight. For a moment, neither side moved. The soldiers, trained to act quickly and decisively, hesitated. The princess, as Alex now realized she must be, froze at the sight of them. Then, without warning, tears began to stream down her cheeks. She didn't hide them, didn't try to compose herself. She simply cried, her sobs soft but urgent, shaking the quiet air of the hangar. Alex lowered his weapon slightly, confused and unsure. "She's not attacking," he said into his comms, more to himself than anyone else. "She's crying." One of the younger soldiers, Private Lane, stepped forward cautiously. "Sergeant, should we?" But Alex raised a hand, stopping him. Something in the princess's eyes, the way her shoulders shook, told him that any aggressive move would only make things worse. The princess's voice, when she spoke, was soft and broken, but the words were clear. "Please help my people captured." Her accent, or perhaps her language, was strange, but she spoke enough galactic common to make her meaning clear. She explained in halting words that her family, rulers of a distant alien world, had been taken by enemies. Her people were scattered and enslaved, and she had been left alone, trying desperately to maintain some control over her situation. The soldiers exchanged glances. This wasn't what they had expected. Their orders were simple: investigate and report. But here was a being in need, vulnerable and terrified. Humanity's instinct to protect, to help those who could not defend themselves, stirred in them. Alex nodded slowly. "All right. We're going to help you, but you need to trust us." The princess looked at them with wide, searching eyes, as if deciding whether to risk that trust. After a long moment, she nodded, wiping her tears with a delicate hand. "Thank you humans," she whispered. Her voice carried relief, but also something heavier, a sorrow that had no easy solution. As they prepared to move, something extraordinary happened. The princess knelt beside her small ship, placing her hand on the hull. The tears that had fallen onto the metal began to glow faintly. The ship responded, lights flickering across its surface, panels sliding open to reveal mechanisms the soldiers could barely comprehend. Alex took a step back, astonished. What is she doing?" he muttered. The princess's tears were somehow interacting with the ship, unlocking its systems, and even in that dim hangar it looked alive. Her emotions powering the ship?" Lane asked, his voice a mix of fear and awe. Alex didn't answer. There were too many questions, and no one had time for answers yet. The station was not safe. They had already detected faint energy signatures, other beings moving within the station, possibly hostile. But now, with the princess's technology reacting to her emotions, they had a chance. A slim chance, but a chance nonetheless. Alex motioned for the squad to follow him. "Keep close," he said, "and stay alert. We protect her and she helps us get out of here." Agreed, the soldiers nodded, understanding that their mission had changed. It was no longer just investigation. It was rescue, defense, and perhaps something more, the beginning of an alliance that could shape the galaxy. As they moved down the corridor, the princess led them silently, her movements careful and precise. She knew the layout of the station, it seemed, guiding them away from patrols and energy traps. Every so often, she would glance at them, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. Alex realized that for all her regal bearing, she was just as vulnerable as anyone else. And yet, she possessed a kind of strength they could barely comprehend. Her knowledge of her ship, her calm under pressure, and her ability to harness her emotions in a tangible way, all of it marked her as someone extraordinary. The soldiers were impressed, not just by her abilities, but by the quiet humanity in her actions. She did not demand their help, did not assert her status. She simply allowed herself to be human, or alien, in her own way, and trusted them to respond with human decency. Suddenly, the faint hum of engines and the clatter of mechanical feet echoed through the corridors. The soldiers froze, hands on their weapons. Lane whispered, "Drones, hostile drones." The princess's eyes widened and she gestured toward her ship. It was time to move, but the danger was immediate. The corridors were tight, filled with the echoes of machinery and the faint glow of energy conduits. They had to act carefully. Alex gave quick orders. "Two go left, two go right. Protect the princess. Use the environment, shadows, walls, anything. Remember, we're smarter than they are, not stronger." The squad split into position, and the princess followed, her hand resting on the glowing hull of her ship. She seemed to draw strength from it, a connection that gave her confidence and gave the soldiers hope. The first wave of drones appeared, their metal bodies gleaming in the dim light. They moved swiftly, their programming precise, but the soldiers anticipated their approach. Using a combination of human ingenuity and the princess's knowledge of her own ship, they set traps, created distractions, and neutralized the drones with minimal risk. It was teamwork unlike anything Alex had seen before, humans and alien working in perfect harmony, combining instinct, skill, and intelligence. During a brief lull, the princess whispered to Alex, They took my family to the fortress. They powerful, very dangerous." Her words were simple, but the meaning clear. They were up against an enemy far beyond the ordinary scope of human missions. And yet, Alex felt a surge of confidence. Humanity had always risen to challenges that seemed impossible, and this would be no different. They reached the hangar where her ship was stationed. The princess knelt beside it again, tears in her eyes but determination in her voice. She placed her hands on the ship's hull and once more it came alive. Panels opened, engines hummed, and weapon systems aligned. Alex and his squad exchanged looks of disbelief. They had seen a lot in their careers, but this was extraordinary. "Ready?" Alex asked, his voice calm but firm. The princess nodded. Together they prepared to leave the station. But just as they were about to board, a massive shadow moved across the hangar. The enemy was arriving. This was only the beginning. The mission had changed, the stakes were higher, and the soldiers were about to witness something that would forever alter their understanding of both humanity and the galaxy. The princess looked at them, her eyes filled with trust and hope. Alex met her gaze and nodded. "We'll get your family back, and we'll survive this, together." As they launched her ship into the void of space, pursued by unknown forces, the soldiers realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans once again. Their bravery, intelligence, and empathy, qualities that could not be measured by weapons or technology, were their greatest strengths. And for the princess, she had found allies she could trust, and a spark of hope that her people might yet be free. The station receded behind them, flickering with faint lights as if it were sighing in relief or sorrow. The soldiers and the alien princess were moving into the unknown, bound by a fragile alliance and a shared determination. And somewhere in that vast expanse of darkness, the first threads of an extraordinary story were beginning to weave, a story where humanity's resilience and compassion would shine brighter than any star. The small ship surged through the dark void of space, its engines glowing faintly, casting soft light on the faces of the soldiers inside. Sergeant Alex Hunter gripped the console tightly, his eyes scanning the holographic display for any sign of pursuit. Beside him, Private Lane adjusted the shields and murmured quietly, "They're faster than anything we've seen before." The alien princess sat near the back, hands resting lightly on the console, her eyes distant and thoughtful. Her tears had dried, but the faint shimmer around her eyes hinted at lingering emotion. She watched the stars slide by, and though she said nothing, her presence was a quiet reminder that they were no longer on a simple mission. They were now on a rescue mission, and every moment counted. "Lane," Alex said, breaking the silence, "focus on our trajectory. Keep an eye on energy fluctuations. If they track us, I don't want us caught off guard." Lane nodded, swallowing nervously. The soldiers had fought aliens before, but nothing like this. These were not mere raiders, they were calculated, relentless, and well-equipped. The princess finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. The fortress, defenses strong, traps everywhere, you must be careful." Her words were simple, but each syllable carried weight. Alex nodded. "We will. You're coming with us because you know things we don't. If your people are inside that fortress, we'll need your guidance." A sudden beep from the sensors interrupted them. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Hostiles, multiple contacts closing fast. The soldiers leaped into action, their training taking over. Lane adjusted the shields, others readied weapons. The princess moved to the ship's interface, her hands tracing glowing patterns across the controls. Instantly, the ship responded, its systems activating in ways the humans had never imagined. The first wave of enemy drones appeared, sleek and metallic, moving like predators in space. They were fast, precise, and heavily armed. But the humans had something the aliens did not expect: unpredictability. Alex's squad coordinated with the princess seamlessly. They used sudden maneuvers, feints, and calculated turns, exploiting the drone's rigid programming. Every time a drone approached, the princess's ship emitted pulses of energy that disrupted their targeting systems. "Her tears, the way she interfaces with the ship," Lane whispered, awe in his voice. Alex shot him a glance. "Focus. We survive first, figure out her power later." But even as he said it, he couldn't help but marvel. Humanity's adaptability paired with her unique abilities gave them an edge they couldn't have predicted. After a tense chase through asteroid fields and energy currents, they finally shook most of the pursuers. The ship glided silently through a calm region of space. The soldiers exhaled collectively, their bodies still tense from adrenaline. Alex looked at the princess. "That was impressive. You saved us more than once." She gave a small, almost shy smile. "Not saved, we together," she corrected gently. Her words were simple, but the meaning was profound. Humanity and alien intelligence working together had overcome a challenge that neither could face alone. Alex nodded, understanding exactly what she meant, but there was no time to linger. The fortress loomed ahead, a massive structure of dark metal and glowing energy conduits, orbiting a jagged moon. Its surface was dotted with weapons emplacements and defensive systems, and even from a distance, it radiated a sense of danger. The princess shivered slightly, gripping the console. They expect us. They powerful." Her voice trailed, but Alex understood the warning. "Good," he said, his tone firm. "That means we're going to surprise them. That fortress doesn't know what humans are capable of. And neither does it know how clever we can be." The soldiers exchanged determined glances. They had faced impossible odds before, and each time humanity had found a way. The approach to the fortress was tense. The princess guided them through a series of less guarded corridors in the fortress' outer orbit, avoiding sensors and patrols. Her knowledge of the layout was invaluable. Every step they took, she whispered warnings and suggestions, pointing out traps and potential ambush points. It was clear that her experience and insight, combined with human ingenuity, made them a formidable team. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the fortress. The humans were detected. Alex's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "Positions, shields up, weapons ready, we get through this together." The princess's ship activated defensive shields, pulsing with energy that seemed tied to her emotions. The soldiers positioned themselves behind the ship, using its glow as cover. The first wave of defenders emerged, humanoid but clearly augmented with mechanical enhancements. They were fast, precise, and armed with weapons designed to incapacitate rather than destroy. Alex studied them for a moment, noting their patterns and weaknesses. "We don't just fight them," he said. "We outthink them." The battle began. The soldiers used every trick they knew: laser traps, magnetic pulses, and careful coordination. The princess's ship emitted waves of energy that disrupted enemy targeting systems, giving the humans openings to strike. One soldier used a simple flare to reflect energy beams. Another created a makeshift trap using a magnetic coil and some wires. Every action required ingenuity, courage, and trust. As the fight escalated, the princess realized something extraordinary. Her emotional state could influence the ship's systems. When she felt fear or sadness, the ship reacted in unexpected ways, generating shields or energy pulses. She experimented cautiously, learning to channel her emotions deliberately. With the soldiers' help, she became a force not just of power but of strategy. In the chaos, Alex noticed something remarkable. Humanity's unpredictability, its creativity, intuition, and ability to improvise, was turning the tide. The augmented defenders were strong, but they were trained to expect patterns, and humans rarely followed them. Each soldier, guided by instinct and quick thinking, created opportunities that the princess could exploit with her ship's interface. At one point, a massive energy gate blocked their path deeper into the fortress. It was designed to crush anything that tried to pass. Alex studied it and saw a solution. "Lane, grab that conduit. Everyone else follow my lead." Using simple human tools combined with the ship's energy pulses, they created a temporary disruption in the gate's systems, allowing them to slip through just before it reactivated. The princess looked at them with wide eyes. "Humans clever," she whispered. As they moved deeper, the soldiers began to understand the fortress's layout. The central chamber where the princess's family was likely held was heavily guarded. Alex gathered the team. "We go in smart, no rushing. We create distractions, manipulate their sensors, and we move as one." The princess nodded, placing her hands on the ship's interface. Energy flowed across the room, ready to support them in ways the soldiers could not yet fully comprehend. When they finally reached the inner chamber, the sight was both horrifying and motivating. The princess's family, regal and strong, were restrained but unharmed, under heavy guard. The soldiers quickly formulated a plan. They would create a diversion, the princess would manipulate the ship systems, and together they would free her people. The execution was tense. The soldiers moved with precision, their coordinated efforts creating confusion among the guards. The princess sent waves of energy to disrupt the enemy's communication and defense systems. Each guard was neutralized without loss of life, their weapons disabled or rendered useless. The humans' resourcefulness, combined with the princess's power, made them unstoppable. Finally, the princess approached her family. Tears flowed freely this time, but not of fear. They were tears of relief and gratitude. She used the ship's interface one last time, releasing a pulse that temporarily disabled the fortress's entire defense grid. Alex and his soldiers stood by, marveling at what they had accomplished, not through brute force alone, but through teamwork, courage, and ingenuity. The princess turned to the humans. "Thank you, humans. You saved us all." Her words were simple, but the meaning was clear. Humans had faced impossible odds, used their minds and hearts to overcome superior technology, and shown that resilience and empathy were as powerful as any weapon. As they prepared to leave the fortress, Alex glanced at his squad. They were tired, bruised, but alive, and they had done something remarkable. "We're not just survivors," he said. "We're humans, and that counts for a lot more than they realize." The princess looked at him, a faint smile forming. She had seen the strength of humanity firsthand, and it had impressed her beyond measure. As they lifted off from the fortress, the soldiers reflected on what had happened. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers and wonders alike. Yet humanity, with its courage, creativity, and heart, had found a way to make a difference, to inspire hope, and to change the course of events that seemed predetermined. The princess and her people were free, but the story was far from over. There were still mysteries to unravel, enemies to face, and alliances to forge. For the soldiers, this mission had been more than just another assignment. It had been a revelation. They had witnessed the power of cooperation between species, the importance of empathy, and the unparalleled strength of the human spirit. And as the stars stretched out before them, endless and bright, they knew that their journey was only beginning. The galaxy might be dangerous, but humans had already shown that they could face it, not just with weapons, but with ingenuity, courage, and heart. The princess, seated quietly beside them, placed her hands once more on the glowing console. Energy pulsed softly, echoing the rhythm of her heart. She was no longer just a victim. She was an ally, a guide, and a symbol of the possibilities that arose when different worlds came together. Alex watched her, understanding the truth of what they had achieved. Humans were not just participants in the galaxy, they were catalysts, capable of changing events through courage, creativity, and compassion. As the ship sped into the unknown, leaving the fortress behind, the soldiers prepared for what would come next. They had faced danger, seen wonders, and forged bonds that would last across the stars. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear: humanity had made its mark. And no force in the galaxy could underestimate it again. The stars stretched endlessly around them as the small ship carrying the soldiers and the alien princess glided through space. The fortress behind them was a memory of danger narrowly escaped, but Alex knew the real challenge was still ahead. The princess's family was safe, but the captors were not finished. They were clever, ruthless, and determined to reclaim their prize. Every decision from here on out could mean life or death, not just for the humans, but for an entire alien civilization. Alex gathered his squad in the ship's central area. "Listen up," he said, voice steady, eyes sharp. "The fortress may be weakened, but they're not done. We need a plan to make sure they can't follow us and to protect the princess's people. We're not just reacting, we're taking control." The soldiers nodded. This was familiar territory, thinking quickly, working as a team, and trusting each other under pressure. The princess approached the console, her hands hovering over the controls. "They may send more fleet, stronger defenses," she said, her voice steady but filled with tension. Alex watched her, noting the quiet confidence that had grown in her over the past hours. She was no longer just a frightened princess crying in a hangar. She was a leader, a strategist, and now, an equal partner in this mission. They reached the edge of the captured system, where sensor readings indicated a fleet of pursuit ships gathering. The enemy had learned from the fortress attack and was now coordinating a counterattack. The humans were outnumbered, but Alex knew something important. The enemy expected brute force. They had no idea humans could think, improvise, and use emotion and ingenuity as weapons. "Lane, take the rear sensors. Track the incoming ships. Everyone else prepare to move on my signal," Alex commanded. The squad fell into position, weapons ready, hands steady. The princess activated her ship's interface, energy pulsing gently around her fingertips. Her tears, controlled now, continued to generate unique effects on the ship, boosting shields, enhancing maneuvering systems, and interfering with enemy targeting. The first wave of enemy ships appeared, sleek and metallic, moving faster than anything the humans had encountered. But predictability was their weakness. Alex coordinated a series of unpredictable maneuvers, weaving the ship through asteroid fields and energy currents that only humans could navigate effectively. The princess responded immediately, guiding her ship with precision that only someone intimately connected to it could achieve. "Remember," Alex said quietly to his team, "we fight smart, not just hard. Use your heads. Use the environment. Use what they don't expect." Every move was calculated, yet improvisation was key. A sudden twist through a narrow asteroid cluster caused one pursuing ship to crash, while a well-timed energy pulse from the princess disabled another. Despite the danger, there was a growing sense of confidence among the soldiers. They had learned to trust her abilities, and she had learned to trust theirs. It was no longer a mission driven by orders. It was a partnership, a collaboration of two very different species united by a shared goal. The fleet attempted to outmaneuver them, sending fast attack ships to flank the humans. Alex quickly devised a trap. Using a combination of magnetic pulses, laser deflections, and careful timing, they channeled the enemy into a narrow corridor between two asteroid fields. The princess's ship pulsed with energy, temporarily disabling the lead enemy vessel. One by one, the attackers fell into the trap. "Impressive," the princess murmured. "Humans clever," Alex smiled, recognizing the quiet praise. "Clever is just another word for surviving," he replied. There was a warmth in her gaze, a recognition that human creativity and courage were unlike anything the galaxy had truly understood until now. Finally, they approached the enemy's main capital ship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons and shields. It was clear that this was the heart of the fleet, the ship coordinating all attacks. The princess's family was safe, but if this ship was not stopped, the enemy could regroup and strike again. Alex knew they had to act, and they had to do it now. "Lane, deploy the decoys. Everyone else, follow the plan. The princess will need your interface to overload their systems at the right moment," Alex said. Lane activated a series of holographic decoys that mimicked their ship's energy signature, confusing the enemy sensors. The princess focused on her ship's controls, her hands glowing as energy pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. As the capital ship closed in, Alex's squad executed a daring maneuver. They weaved through enemy fire, dodging energy blasts, and using asteroid cover to shield themselves. The princess's ship responded perfectly, her emotional connection amplifying the power of each maneuver. The soldiers could see that her control was not mechanical, it was intuitive, almost alive. When they were in position, the princess released a controlled burst of energy. It rippled through the enemy fleet, temporarily shutting down shields and weapon systems. Alex and his squad seized the moment, targeting weak points with precision. The capital ship shuddered under the assault, systems failing, and finally, with a blinding pulse, it went dark. The rest of the fleet scattered, leaderless and disoriented. The victory was complete, but it was not just the result of firepower. It had been human ingenuity, teamwork, and courage, combined with the princess's unique abilities, that had turned the tide. The soldiers and the princess had faced overwhelming odds and had prevailed, not by being stronger, but by being smarter, braver, and more adaptable than their enemies. The princess exhaled deeply, tears streaming again, not of fear, but of relief and gratitude. Her family was safe, the enemy defeated, and the galaxy had witnessed the power of human determination. She looked at Alex and his squad, her voice trembling with emotion. "You, humans, amazing. You saved us all." Alex placed a hand on the console beside her. "We didn't do it alone. You helped us. Together we're stronger than any enemy." She nodded, understanding fully. This mission had not been about aliens or humans. It had been about cooperation, trust, and the strength that comes from unity. As they set a course for a safe system, where the princess's family could recover, Alex reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity had always been underestimated, often dismissed as fragile or insignificant in the grand scale of the galaxy. But time and again, humans had proven that resilience, ingenuity, and empathy were forces to be reckoned with. In the face of danger, they had not only survived, they had excelled. The princess sat quietly, her hands resting gently on the console. I never knew humans like this," she said softly. "Not just strong, but clever, brave, kind." Her words carried awe, admiration, and a recognition that humans were unlike anything the galaxy had expected. Alex smiled. "That's us," he said simply. "We do what we must. We survive, we protect, we adapt. And sometimes, we change the course of things that seem impossible." The ship moved smoothly through the stars, leaving behind the chaos of battle and the shadow of the fortress. The soldiers had fought not for glory, but for life, justice, and the protection of those who could not defend themselves. The princess had found allies she could trust, and humanity had demonstrated the power of heart and mind combined. When they arrived at the safe system, the princess's family was waiting, their expressions a mix of relief and gratitude. The reunion was quiet but profound. Tears flowed freely, embraces were shared, and the bond between species was solidified. Alex and his soldiers stood back, observing. They had not only completed their mission, they had changed perceptions, built trust, and shown that humans could rise to challenges no one else could face. As the alien family thanked them, Alex realized that this was more than a rescue. It was a statement. The galaxy could no longer underestimate humans. Strength came in many forms, and the soldiers had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and empathy were as powerful as any weapon. The princess turned to Alex one final time. You are heroes. My people will remember. The galaxy will know humans remarkable." Alex nodded, feeling a quiet pride. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and despair, and had emerged victorious, not through brute force alone, but through the qualities that defined humanity. The soldiers prepared to leave the system, their ship ready for new challenges. They knew the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and filled with dangers yet unseen. But they also knew this truth. Wherever humans went, they brought courage, ingenuity, and heart. And those qualities, more than anything, could shape the universe. As the stars stretched endlessly ahead, Alex looked at his squad, then at the princess, and finally at the vast expanse of space. This mission was over, but the journey was just beginning. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. Humans were not to be underestimated, and their impact, on allies and enemies alike, was undeniable. The alien princess, seated beside them, smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting both the stars outside and the gratitude within. Humanity had saved her people, But in doing so, they had also illuminated something greater: the strength, the courage, and the brilliance of the human spirit. And as the ship glided silently toward the next adventure, Alex knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never doubt humans again. And for the soldiers, for the princess, and for the future they had begun to shape, that was more than enough. It was everything.